Welcome back to Something in the Wilderness. Each episode I pick one song from throughout Andrew McMahon's career, and I talk about it. My name's Steve, and today I have a special guest. Her name's Marci. I've known her for 14 years, and we've been married for 11. And the reason I wanted her to come on the show today is because she loves Christmas more than anyone else I know. So this is going to have kind of a Christmas theme to it, and we'll get to that in just a little bit.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining me, but especially for putting up with all the time I spend doing this thing.
I'm just excited to be invited into the recording closet.
Today we'll be talking about a song that you may or may not have heard. Some may call it a Christmas song, but if you're a serious Andrew McMahon fan, then you probably consider this his Christmas song. So let's just start off with a couple questions from Marci and get to know her a little bit before we get into the song discussion.
We both grew up and listened to very different types of music. So when we met and started dating, he introduced me to some of his music that he really liked to listen to. And I worked on introducing him to some of mine, some country songs that he was not familiar with country at all at the time.
True.
So I really I grew up listening to oldies music when I was younger from the 50s and 60s. So we listened to some oldies, some country from my side. He, introduced me to Jack's Mannequin, Andrew McMahon, as well as, a couple other groups, one which was our wedding song.
That was a song by a band called Headley, Canadian band.
Yeah, and then there was definitely some ones. I'm not someone that really likes when bands start screaming at me and yelling, so we had to nix those ones pretty quick.
Yeah, but you were open to some of them, which I appreciate. All right, so do you have a particular memory, Marci, that you connect with first hearing Andrew's music?
Yeah, when we met, we lived in the state of Maryland, and the main road going down to the area that we lived was called 301, and it really just sticks out in my mind that we were driving back from the Washington, D.C. area down that road, and Steve started playing me some of his songs, and I really grew to like them, and then he played me some of his older stuff, and I wasn't as much of a fan of that stuff as the newer stuff, specifically starting with the Everything in Transit album and the Glass Passenger and those types of albums.
Yeah, so we met in 2007, so between those two albums. What would you say is your favorite era of Andrew's music then?
Jack's Mannequin and Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness, but I think Jack's Mannequin is the one that I play most frequently, is definitely from that era. Something Corporate's a little bit too heavy, a little bit too rock for me, maybe too punk. What does it qualify as?
Yeah, I'd say it's pop punk.
Okay, pop. It's too pop punky for me. Just not my style as much. I'll listen to it if it's on. I won't shut it off, but it's not something I would personally pull up.
All right, so let's get to the song now. This song is one of the trademark Jack's Mannequin songs to me. It's very specific to a time of his life, to a time of year, and the way it was released was, I think, pretty unique. This one hit me pretty hard back then, and it still does. Not only are the lyrics very personal to him, but they're kind of easy to relate to for others. The fact that it's a song about the Christmas season makes it special, because I listen to it a lot more at this time of year than I do the rest of the year. So let's go through the stats. The band is Jack's Mannequin, and this song, The Lights and Buzz that we're talking about today, was released as a single on November 15th, 2005. Interestingly, only 3 months after Everything in Transit came out, which is still shocking to me because in my memory, this song feels completely separate from Everything in Transit. In fact, I was going through my iTunes account, which is still the same iTunes account I had back then, and it tells me that I downloaded this song on July 1st, 2007, a full year and a half after it actually came out. Marci, do you have a specific memory of this song in particular?
Well, my favorite part of the song is that when you say the name of it, I don't know the song because I call it something completely different. So I call it Christmas in California, which is not the name of the song at all. But
well, you call songs by their main line, and I noticed that pretty early on in our relationship.
Yeah, he took a look at my iTunes that I had at the time and didn't know probably a third of the songs and then started listening to them. And he's like, you don't have this labeled right. And I think he spent an entire day reorganizing and relabeling all of my iTunes songs.
Yes, because I couldn't stand the fact that they didn't have the right titles on them. So this song is not called Christmas in California, but I think if you called it that to any fan, they would know exactly what you're talking about. So this song, The Lights and Buzz, came out in 2005 initially, but a year later in 2006, it was also included as a bonus track on the Japanese edition of Everything in Transit. Then in 2015, it was again on the Everything in Transit 10th Anniversary Edition, along with 4 other B-sides and a couple of live versions of other songs.
Is he big in Japan?
I really don't know, but that's an interesting question.
Okay. Sorry, I just wondered.
Interestingly, the song I talked about last time, they also had an EP that was only released in Japan. the songs for silent movies by something corporate. So
There you go.
maybe Andrew McMahon has quite a following in Japan that I'm not aware of.
There you go. You can research it and let everybody know next time.
Or if you're listening and you want to hit me up and let me know that information, I would appreciate it. The song's also been on some Christmas compilations too. It was first featured on Kevin and Bean's Super Christmas album, Kevin and Bean from the famous K-Rock show. I don't know where to find that one anymore, but you can check out these other Christmas comps on Spotify. Gift Wrapped 20 Songs That Keep on Giving came out in 2009, Chrismica in 2017, and Alternative Christmas from 2019. All these albums have pretty diverse track lists, so between these three you'll find Christmas songs by artists like Reliant K, The Used, My Chemical Romance, Adam Sandler, Randy Travis, Michael Bublé, Ashley Tisdale of High School Musical fame, Kenny Rogers, REO Speedwagon, the Brian Setzer Orchestra, Blake Shelton, REM, Jet, and a really terrible one by Third Eye Blind. And I'm a big Third Eye Blind fan, but I do not recommend that song. It seems to me that whoever released these compilations somehow just owned the rights to all these random Christmas songs by all these artists and just put them all out together. Just search for The Lights and Buzz on Spotify and you'll see what I mean. You could say that Marci and I are Christmas music collectors. Our kids are used to listening to Christmas music for a good 2 months every year.
That's for sure. They even know when it's November 1st, but usually in July, we start bringing out a couple songs here and there just for fun.
I'll be honest, though, I have a pretty strict rule about listening to Christmas music before November 1st. But if it's Lights and Buzz or if it's other rock songs by artists I like, Weezer has a great Christmas album, Bad Religion has one, Reliant K has some Christmas songs. Those ones I'm pretty open to listening to anytime, but it just feels like more in the Christmas spirit around Christmas time. But all the classic Christmas songs, I'm kind of particular about not listening to them until November 1st, and I really don't want to get too burned out on them.
There's always next year.
Next year for more Christmas music. But like I said, we're pretty big collectors, so we're always getting on Spotify and finding new artists or maybe even older artists that have released new Christmas songs. The latest one that I know of is an emo band I enjoy from a few years back called Rookie of the Year. Just released a 3-song EP I recommend you check out. Have seen them in concert a couple of times, and I really enjoy their regular music, but it's pretty cool to me when an artist like that puts out Christmas music. Sometimes it's surprising, but I really enjoy it, and that's why I like songs like The Lights and Buzz. I like hearing artists that I already enjoy music from doing their either spin on Christmas music or writing their own original Christmas song, which is, of course, what we have here.
I never really thought of us as Christmas music collectors. I never put the word collector really with my Christmas music, although I do work on my playlist for quite a few weeks before I start playing it to make sure I have some of the newest songs on there, as well as classics, and some of the ones Steve's introduced me to as well. But we definitely have some new favorite ones that are different this year.
I have to have a separate playlist called Christmas Music Jams with some of the harder rock songs on there compared to our regular Christmas party playlist where we just have the old standards.
Well, and the kids put their favorite Christmas songs on mine, so I have some Descendants Disney movie Christmas songs as well. So
between the two of us, we have 4 different Christmas music playlists, so I would say we're collectors. So this song doesn't actually have a music video, but I feel like it should. It's a great tune, and it provides a lot of visuals in my head. So I'm curious, Marci, if there was a music video for this, what do you think it would look like?
Well, I was only in California when I was probably 7 or 8 years old, so it's been a long time since I've been to California, but I just envisioned some sandy beaches, maybe some random Christmas trees with lights put up on the beach, and maybe it's the morning when he's out singing this song, just being reflective, maybe having a cup of coffee out there for the video. But, I think that little bit of Christmas lights on the trees just kind of adds that little hint of Christmas, which I feel like, the song overall just is kind of a hint of Christmas, not a complete Christmas song, even though we feel like that it is.
Yeah, I would picture palm trees with Christmas lights and almost like the cover of the Everything in Transit album, only decorated for Christmas or something. So this song was written by Andrew McMahon and produced by Jim Wirt, like the majority of Jack's Mannequin's music. During part of the Jack's Mannequin era, Andrew was writing in a blog for his fans. I didn't discover this blog until many years later, but I really wish I had known about it at the time. He was updating it during his hospital stay, too. In only 6 weeks after his stem cell transplant in a post titled 3 Days in LA on October 13, 2005, Andrew revealed here that he had recorded the song. He wrote, "I'm not exactly sure what I was thinking, venturing out so early in my recovery, but with the holidays around the corner and a song that seemed somewhat relevant to said time of year, I decided to head into the studio. It's always a little bittersweet not having as much in the way of energy when I'm in a recording session, but it was enough to get me through, and by 5 yesterday we had completed a new Jack's Holiday track called The Lights and Buzz. I'm really happy with it. It's got a bit of a different vibe, but it's a fun departure. It's always nice to experiment a little bit with the B-side type stuff. And I gotta say, I think this song does have a slightly different sound than Everything in Transit, which is again why it's surprising to me that it came out so close to Everything in Transit looking back. Marci, do you think it sounds like anything else that he did up to that point or shortly afterward?
I guess trying to think about it just off the top of my head, Swim comes to mind, which I think that's off the Glass Passenger album.
Yeah, it came out a couple years later. So I don't know, maybe this song was a good bridgeway between Everything in Transit and The Glass Passenger. Only a couple weeks before he announced recording the song, he was really sick with a virus, and his friends were telling him afterward that he was even delusional for a little while because his head was so cloudy. So I think that's important to note, just kind of thinking about the headspace he was in when he wrote this song and recorded it. I really do like the cover artwork for this single, though. It's very artistic, but different than Everything in Transit. It has a tree with some lights on it, and I didn't notice this until years later, but it actually has the silhouette of Andrew's head.
That was like the main part I noticed.
Was it? So the main part you noticed is the silhouette?
Yes.
That's interesting to me because I saw the tree and the words and the stars, and I didn't notice the silhouette for I don't know how long.
It's like one of those pictures that sometimes people post about, and if you look at it one way, you see an old woman. If you look at it the other way, you see a young woman. So,
well, Setlist FM has a song on 16 concert set lists total. I'm kind of shocked that they only have the song listed for Jack's Mannequin twice in 2010. That's really hard for me to believe. So once again, if you're out there listening and you've seen the song perform live, get on Setlist FM and update it. Every other time it was played, though, according to Setlist FM, it was by Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness in the last 5 years, except for one time it was listed by Andrew McMahon solo in 2014. And most recently, he played this solo on the 97X Tampa Facebook page. It was for their Christmas party this year. It was pretty awesome to hear that in that raw form, like he did his Instagram Live, so I was real happy to hear that. I'd honestly been kind of looking forward to that since he started doing Instagram Lives, and I was really glad that he came through on that one. I watched every one of those Instagram Live stream sessions, as Marci knows.
Yeah, you did.
And I do appreciate you watching them with me a couple of times.
I was going to say, I didn't watch them all.
No, there were a lot of them. But I was realizing that we've never seen him live and in person around the holidays. But I guess the closest we'll get is next year we're booked for the Rock Boat. So maybe we'll get to see it played again then.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Hopefully the Rock Boat happens. I know during this pandemic so much is up in the air, so we went ahead and booked our trip, but we do acknowledge that it may or may not happen. But it would be really cool if everybody could get out and go to concerts together, especially on a boat in the middle of the sea. I love concerts a lot, and so I really appreciate Marci willing to take that adventure with me. So if it doesn't happen next year, maybe we'll go the following year.
I said I needed a beach day out of it.
So she gets the beach, and I get concerts on a boat. So a few notes on the songwriting. This was the first song that Andrew wrote after Everything in Transit came out, as I mentioned earlier. He was still recovering from his cancer treatment. They were actively promoting the Transit record at the time, and he'd been home about 30 days from the hospital. His management told him that K-Rock would be interested in a Christmas song if he had one. So he sat down and wrote the chorus immediately, Christmas in California. Though the Transit album was about California in the summer, this song was more about coming home, scarred from his cancer experience, but really grateful to be alive. This one is one of the several songs he wrote about his recovery. It must have been this crazy dynamic, though, just returning home from the hospital and then trying to write and record a song, but probably therapeutic for him. The rest of the songs about his treatment and recovery ended up on future EPs and on The Glass Passenger, so you could probably say this was part of a new era for his career. I love the sound of this song. It's not quite like Everything in Transit. I don't think it fits quite with the Glass Passenger era stuff either. I guess you could say it's somewhere in between. And then there's some vocals on the Upside Down Flowers record that kind of remind me of some of the vocals in this song. The first two lines of each verse, I don't know any other way to explain it, but it kind of sounds like he's underwater. And I feel like the way Butch Walker produced the Upside Down Flowers album, they kind of did the same thing with the vocals on some of those songs.
Yeah, I remember when it first came out, you brought that up even before you started really researching and learning about the music.
Yeah, it was just a different sound that I wasn't used to. But now looking back, I see that they did that with the vocals on The Lights and Buzz as well. I also noticed this bell type of sound during the chorus periodically. I thought I had to think about it for a few minutes.
I thought it was a tinkling, but he didn't like that.
No, I said I consider tinkling a different thing than a bell. But I looked up a couple instruments, and I've decided that I think it's a triangle. So I'm going to play you what a triangle sounds like, and you go back and listen to the chorus of the Lights and Buzz and see what you think. Right after the bridge, there's an instrumental piece that's mostly guitar as well. I wouldn't call it a solo, but it extends the chorus into something new, and I kind of like that part as well. So let's talk a little bit about lyrics. Marci, to me, I think the most important line of the song is, "It's good to be alive." What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that's the most important, especially knowing where he was at that time in his life. But it also makes me think of just this year. And, with right now where with COVID cases are rising, and up until a couple weeks ago, I don't feel like I knew anybody that had actually died from it or suffered from it. And that's definitely changed over the last couple weeks. So it's just making me extra thankful for everything that we have and that we're healthy, and that even with all the chaos that seems like is going on in the world and everything, that it's still good to be alive. We still have so many blessings, so many good things in our world.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's one of the things I love about this song. It's an end of the year song. It's a Christmas song, obviously, but it's also kind of looking back on the year we've had. Every year, we could say the same thing. And I think we can all say at the end of every single year, it's good to be alive. So I love the story in this song as well. I can envision what his life looked like with these lyrics. I get these visuals when he sings. "I'm coming home from my hardest year. I'm making plans not to make plans while I'm here." It's like he just needed time away from everyone, which I could understand after such a traumatic experience. He also plays with the theme of the song in the next line. "This life has been no holiday, a complicated situation. I'm fine with all my memories, so I could use a vacation." Because I think he's coming to terms and trying to be content with all that happened, but he needs time to process it all too.
And I think we all would like to go on a vacation right now.
Yeah, definitely. So when he sings that, I think that line is more relevant this year than most years for most of us.
In a very different way than it was for him.
Yeah. In fact, I remember when we booked the Rock Boat, that's kind of where we were in this whole pandemic era. We were like, we haven't left the house in 6 months. We need to go do something. So I was like, Andrew's going to be on a boat in a year. Can we go on the Rock Boat? And you agreed to it, so thank you.
I did. Well, we also live in Ohio, and it's cold and gray for months on end.
So November is going to be a good time to get out on a boat on the ocean. So, Marci, what would you say is the most memorable part of the song for you?
Well, since I think it's called Christmas in California, I kind of have to go with that part. There's definitely other parts that I like, where the "It's Good to Be Alive" is repeated. He also makes the reference to the Beach Boys with "Good Vibration" in there, and I really enjoy the Beach Boys, probably because that's what I listened to when I was young, but it's still important.
Yeah, I think that chorus is super catchy, and it's what I would say Andrew's known for the majority of the time since this era of his music, just writing really, really catchy choruses. "Christmas in California, it's hard to ignore. It feels like summer all the time. But I'll take a West Coast winter to remove my splinters." Even though it's a reflective lyric and it's kind of sad, I just think it's really catchy and hooky. And I like that you brought up the Beach Boys because I appreciate the Beach Boys reference. I've noticed in the past couple of years how many of my favorite contemporary artists reference Beach Boys regularly in either their music or as inspiration for what they're doing. So I think that's really important to note. And it's ironic because I'm not much of a Beach Boys fan. Maybe I should be.
Gotta go listen to some Little Saint Nick.
Yeah, Beach Boys do have a full Christmas album, which I hear every year, thanks to Marci, along with all our other Christmas pop music. Going back to that, "It feels like summer all the time" line, we've lived in the Midwest most of our lives, so to me, when you walk outside, the Christmas season feels cold and there's snow, so probably something very different from what someone in California would feel at Christmas time.
See, I think of the more internal where it feels warm. So I guess to me, it would be interesting to be somewhere that is warm, I think, at Christmas time and see if I feel differently about it. But there was always, I can remember being little and always having that hope that it was going to snow on Christmas Day and we were going to have a ton of snow on Christmas Day, which if we're in California, that would not probably happen.
I did spend one Christmas in Florida one year, and yeah, it didn't really feel like Christmas, but I think that was for a few reasons. But one of them was definitely that it was 70 degrees there.
I don't know. When we're putting up all those Christmas lights in the cold, sometimes I wish that it was a little bit warmer out because it's quite cold here.
Yeah, that would be the advantage of being somewhere warm for Christmas. So speaking of home, I really feel like I can identify with the second verse a little bit more. "I'm coming home to the lights and buzz. Streets look the same, still nothing's as it was." Because once I moved away from Metro Detroit where I grew up and I came back to visit, I realized how much things change when you're gone. It's hard to explain. There's this familiarity, a nostalgia, and it'll always feel like home. But when you leave for a long time and you come back, it's not exactly like you remember. I think anybody who's ever moved away can identify with that, but I think it's maybe more clear during Christmas time.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit different, but my parents were very big into Christmas too, which is probably where I get it from. So I feel like excited when I get to their house. Like they always try to make it still magical for all of us, for us and our kids. I guess the part of, it's not exactly like you remember because everybody's getting older. So when I see cousins that I grew up with and aunts and uncles, and we don't see them that often. So when you only see them once a year, sometimes it takes me back, like when you see how much somebody has aged or how much somebody's changed. So I guess for me, it's more of the people and how that's not how I remember it. I remember us all being younger and running around the house and screaming and playing. And
I imagine that as a touring musician, someone like Andrew would feel the same way because they're gone on tour so much, they're out recording, that they don't probably see their family as much as someone who lives around the corner. So I imagine when he returns home for the holidays, it is a little different. But obviously the year that he wrote the song, it was very different when he returned home. Let's go back to that Beach Boys reference in there. I really like these lines. In this place is paradise, I'm sure. Here's my reservation. I've gotten lost here once before. Inside a good vibration. So just a couple of weeks ago, New Found Glory, one of my other favorite artists, released a Christmas song called December's Here. And we listened to it a couple times, and I realized how much it reminds me of a Beach Boys song. And it reminded me again, I should go back and listen to maybe some Christmas Beach Boys songs. Maybe I would appreciate them more now.
I bet you would.
I mean, we have their greatest hits, and we have their Christmas album, so maybe I should give them another spin. What's your favorite Beach Boys Christmas song? If you were going to recommend me to get into the Beach Boys, what would you recommend?
I feel like the Little Saint Nick one is probably the one I listen to the most just because it's really upbeat and it's a unique Christmas song. It's also one that I don't feel like this one has really been redone that much. I feel like I can only think of one other group that has done this song after the Beach Boys. There's probably more, but I guess it's just very unique to me because I feel like it's pretty well played but not remade.
Yeah, I never thought about that one, actually. It is curious to me how many Christmas songs get remade over and over again, and then some don't. And I feel like that one was pretty popular, probably, at the time it came out.
Yeah.
I haven't really heard it done by anybody else, like you said. You're right. Toward the end of the song, he says, in time, it's said to stop for no one. The seasons come and go in, that's just time. Outside, it stops for no one. The seasons keep on going, whether or not we're blind. What do you make of that line?
I just think it's thinking about we've had the Christmas season for 2,000 years. It just makes me think about humans throughout history. And it's so hard to understand and think about how many people have walked and lived on this earth. And the earth just keeps on turning. So it's really making the most of that time because every day is still going to go by. It's just what we make of it and who we choose to spend time with.
Yeah, to me, that last line is so relevant. It's like whether or not we're blind. It's like whether or not you acknowledge it and life is happening. So like you said, you got to make the best of it, even in times of trauma, even in tough times like, a lot of people are in right now. Do you have a least favorite part of the song?
Actually I do. When it first starts playing, I'm like, oh, this isn't the right song. And then by the third line, I'm like, oh yeah, it is the right song. The first two lines and the way I think they edit, or what's it called when they do something to their voice?
Maybe distort the vocals?
Yeah, like distort the vocals. It doesn't catch me right away. So my least favorite part is those first two lines. Even though I think they're important, there's just something about them that seems off to me and doesn't make me feel connected until that third and fourth line of the song.
Kind of like the Upside Down Flowers album. I think it was a weird producing decision to distort his voice when he has such a great voice, and that's made clear in the third line as he goes in, and that distortion goes away. Would it be fair to say your favorite part of the song is the chorus then?
Yeah, and I think that's, as we've been talking, I've been thinking about this and why I like the Jax Mannequin and Andrew McMahon is I feel like it's more sing-songy versus when you've played me something corporate songs, they don't feel as sing-songy to me. And just thinking about all of the music that I've ever liked, I like things that make me, kind of feel good and that I can sing along to.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that sounds to me like the kind of music you like, and you've opened my eyes to more, let's say, pop type of music as well. And I think because of that, I was more open to the changes that Andrew made when he went from Jax Mannequin to the Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness, which, in my opinion, is more pop than rock.
What part of the song do you like the best?
I would have to go with the chorus as well. It's good to be alive, especially. I just think that line is so important to the song, to the time of his life, and I think it's especially relevant, like you said, today in the pandemic era. As far as I know, there's actually no other versions of this song, though it's been released in 6 different collections of music that we know of. It's always been the same version, which I guess is fine by me because I love it. But if you want to hear some live versions, there's several out on YouTube. There's one from 2010, 2014, and in 2019 that I could find. And surprisingly, all are really good audio. I especially like the one from Last Christmas in 2019 because it's just him and a piano on a stage. I'll link that one in the show notes. I also found a decent guitar cover of it on Facebook Watch. I was Googling this song on every corner of the internet looking for fun facts, and I happened to come across this guy's version. He's in a band called Lonely at the Top, and he recorded and posted this cover exactly 3 years ago. You can find the link in the show notes as well. So some final thoughts here. I don't think we can end this song without talking about the title. Even though you think it's called Christmas in California, it is called The Lights and Buzz. Though it's only in one line of one of the verses, I think it is significant. So I think it has a double meaning in this case. You know, Everything in Transit had only been out for a few months, and songs from that record were getting a little bit of airplay. So things were looking pretty good for him as a solo artist. But also this song was about coming home for Christmas. So I'm thinking it's also a reference to not only the buzz of the new album, but the Christmas lights that you see when you drive through a neighborhood coming home for Christmas. We're pretty into decorating for Christmas with our lights, and you know, every year we like to add one more thing to the outdoor display.
Or more than one. Well, this year, my dad gifted us snowflakes that he made 30 years ago. I grew up on the side of a hill right along the Ohio River. So the hill, you could see West Virginia from it. And my dad built this huge snowman out of lights. And in the tree behind it, he hung these huge snowflakes. So this year, he redid the snowflakes with LED lights. And so, yeah, and they're out in our front yard blinking every single night now.
And it's really cool to see people drive by and kind of slow down, you know. I don't know, there's something about Christmas lights, at least for us. You know, we love driving around looking at Christmas lights. It makes us feel more in the holiday spirit, and we like to provide that for other people too. So, Marci, of all the Jack's Mannequin and Andrew McMahon songs that you do know, where does this one rank for you?
I mean, I definitely like it. It's one of those, though, too, that once I started, when I put on the playlist and it just started playing through different songs, and I was like, ooh, Bruised. Ooh, I really like that one. La La La. Oh, I really like that one. Swim, Dark Blue. I really, really like those ones. So actually, once I started listening to them all together, one right after another, it actually bumped the song down a little bit for me. I think, too, because of the way it starts off, that it's not my favorite start off into one of his songs, kind of bumps it down a little bit, but it is Christmas. And so I really like Christmas, which we have talked about. So...
But you're, like we said earlier, you're more into the Jack's Mannequin era of Andrew, and even that wilderness stuff I know you listen to more. And maybe you'll join me for a wilderness song that's maybe especially relevant to you later on.
Ooh, I bet I know which one you're talking about.
Yep.
That was my first choice one, but it got sidelined for Christmas, so I was okay with it since we're doing a Christmas song.
Yeah, so in 2021, we'll have you back on the show, and we'll talk about that other song that you love so much.
There we go.
So I want to thank you guys again for listening. Thank you to Marci for being a part of this episode. Be sure to subscribe and rate the podcast so more people can find it. And please post a comment on one of our socials. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to message me directly, email somethinginthewilderness@gmail.com. And again, a big special thank you to my wife Marci for sitting here with me talking about the song.
It's good. I don't think Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is over yet, so our kids are still down there watching it. So we have to end it soon.
Yeah, we got to wrap this up. Marci, the song always reminds me of listening to Christmas music with you, so it was pretty special and fitting that you were the guest in this episode. Well, it's Christmas in Ohio. It's hard to ignore, but it feels like winter all the time. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. I'll be back with another episode on January 3rd, 2021.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.